Oh, I'm doing the intro. I'm ordering our daughter's school lunch. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Novak Morning Minutes. We've got a whopper of an episode for you guys this morning.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Christmas is almost here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Someone said that to me the other day. They're like, oh, because we were working out when the listing should go live. And they're like, oh, it's Christmas is in 6 weeks. And I was like, wait, what? It's nuts,
How
isn't it?
did that happen?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely
Exciting
crazy.
though.
Yeah, you can feel the weather warming up. It's beautiful. But we're talking this morning about, switching your agents for better performance, are we? No, we're not talking about that. Okay. But we can talk about switching your agents for better performance. But what we're talking about this morning is actually sweetening the deal. So a lot of people do not realize that you can,
There you go, that's better.
thank you, sweetening the deal with
Sorry.
terms, not money. So a lot of people don't realize this, guys, that, everyone's always fully focused on the dollars. And of course, that's the vast majority of vendors. But the conditions of the sale or the conditions of the offer are such an important factor, aren't they?
It reminds me of a conversation we had this week dealing with certain levels of people in business when selling as well. They didn't matter about money. Like money was, we had that comment,
Yeah.
agents that were selecting us for their people that were selecting us for their service, generally, I don't know how to say this politely, but generally the more astute business people or people that were more succeeded in life didn't focus as much on
the commission side of things.
Commission.
Yeah.
They were like, whatever, let's talk about the terms. When can we start? What are advertising going to do?
Yeah, that's from a vendor's perspective. We're talking about more from a purchaser's, but I understand what you're saying.
But I think it applies to both.
Yes.
I think quite clever business people will look less at, it's definitely a consideration.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Mr. One Damien Scarf, often says, you name the price, I'll name the terms.
Yeah, it's clever.
It's really, really clever.
It is clever. So sometimes we see with purchasers, they go, look, that's all I've got, 720,000, and the vendor wants 750,000. But the purchaser turns around. And this actually happened last week with an apartment that we had in Collaroy, that we sold. Didn't quite get there on price. In fact, the vendor was obviously very happy in the end. But the purchaser said, you know what, I can do 4 weeks and I can go unconditional, as opposed to the standard terms of 42 days, which is 6 weeks. And look, we see in this market in particular a lot of cooling off periods, which means that the purchaser requires a 5-day cooling off period to do their due diligence. And a huge part of that cooling off period is because they're needing to get their formal approval on their finance. But this particular purchase, Mark said, happy to put down 10% deposit, unconditional, no cooling off period, and a 4-week settlement, so a shorter settlement. Very appealing. And it is worth money, guys, the terms. The terms is worth money.
It is. And from a buyer's side, we've often leveraged more money out of a buyer because we actually understand the transaction with terms. And to understand the transaction with terms, we've completely steered away from price.
Yeah.
We've talked about why the buyer's buying, their motivation, their finance, their fears, all of that stuff. And then we often double that back to the negotiation, and they will come up in price.
Yeah, that's right.
They're more reluctant to part with money on terms as a buyer. Sellers are more reluctant to part with money on terms as a seller.
Yes.
So it's just really, really important that a great negotiator is unpacking all of the necessities of the purchaser and the vendor to try to mesh that together to get a better deal.
Well,
for
that's
both.
exactly right. And for this vendor in particular, if I just refer back to the Collaroy 2 Better,
Yep.
This vendor in particular, he had his property vacant. He had no rent coming in. It was an investment. And so a 4-week settlement was so appealing for him, right, as opposed to having that property sit that costs him money week by week. So buyers, if you're watching, do not dismiss that your terms are worth good money. They're worth good money. And as I said, often we will, we will, as Mark said, we will mesh the deal together just purely based on the fact that the purchaser had some great terms. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Great Man, look who's here. Talk about the greats this morning.
Yeah.
We've got Mr. Pierce Cody tuning in.
Yeah.
What a guest appearance, Mr. Cody. Hope you're well. Hope you guys are well.
What a legend.
Goliath. So, guys, terms, conditions, extremely important, important. And as Mark said, from a vendor's perspective, same rule applies. You never know what's going on with the vendor.
No.
I got called into an appraisal on the Wednesday afternoon. A lady who had purchased up in Byron Bay, and she said to me, "How quickly can you get me sold?" And I said, well, it's just going to really come down to, price.
Doesn't a buyer love that?
Yeah. But you can only imagine for a vendor like that, Mark, who's committed to buying a house in Byron Bay and wants her house sold really quickly. Someone comes along and goes, well, there's the money, and it might not be exactly where it should be.
Yep.
Not suggesting that we're not getting the most amount of money for our vendors, guys. We're just talking about a topic. But, and then they go, I'm a cash buyer and I can settle in 2 weeks. And she's just going snap. So you never know what's going on in a vendor's life. You just never know.
Think about it. Unpack the deal on both ends. Find out the terms, not just price. Friday Frenzy, what else happened this week?
An
Inflation.
Enormous. Yeah, oh my God.
This is another topic. This is a numbers topic.
You can talk about numbers.
Pretty interesting though, because I was betting.
I don't love numbers.
If I was a betting man,
anyone was wondering.
If I was a betting man, I would say there's no chance in hell that rates were going to go up next month. Next month, I think, is the last opportunity for a rate rise for the next 2 months because the Reserve Bank is shutting up shop.
Yeah.
Then I saw the inflation figures and I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Petrol. They're talking about petrol going through the roof, and it's going to get tough.
I'd love to know what everyone out there thinks
about. It's going to get tough.
Do you reckon the rate rise, the rate's going to go up or down?
I also want to know: are people travelling at the end of the year, given that there is, this issue with inflation? Are people still going on all of these big expensive holidays at the end of the year? Just interested to know.
Would you admit it?
To know. Or maybe on here you could anonymously, but I'm interested to know. Mark, record level of appraisals this week.
Yeah,
it's been super busy.
Stock's coming good in the market. I saw some data from Real Commercial. You like data, eh?
Yeah, I'll just have a little rest here.
Real Commercial, I asked them a question. So Real Commercial, realestate.com.au, I asked them a question. What are the stock levels you're experiencing over the last 6 months?
Yeah, good question.
What do you reckon?
New stock coming to market, because there's a little. Okay,
this is interesting.
So there's a little bit of falseness going on out there, or false reporting.
Can I answer this question? Can I tell you, because it's going to tie back to what I'm doing. 1,000. Sorry, I'm not going to say the number.
You asked me a question and then didn't let me answer.
Just one thing.
Okay.
This is stock on market, and the way they monitor it is the properties that came on for the month and left the month, the total properties that sat on their site.
Yes.
So you could have nothing coming on and nothing selling, and there's still that many sitting on their website in the course of the month.
Okay, so I'm glad that that's how they track it, because often, guys, you'll go onto realestate.com and go, what's the agent talking about? There's so much stock around, but some of it has been sitting there for 3 months and it's not moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just watch it. As I said, there's a little bit of it's not false reporting. It's true. There is that stock on the market, but the buyers are looking for the fresh stuff. We know the minute we list a property or it goes onto our socials and we start getting all of those inquiries coming through, the buyers are looking for the fresh stuff. They're not necessarily looking for that house or apartment that has been sitting on the market for 3 months, that had no price adjustment, that still looks the same, that, you know, that's not appealing to the marketplace. It's very much like walking into a clothing store and you see the old dress
like
that's
that.
been sitting in the shop for 3 months, and straight away you want to go to where's all the new stuff.
Yep.
Right? It's exactly the same. This is just the mentality of the human. It's the mentality of the human. So that's interesting, Mark, that's how they track their data.
On the northern beaches, there you
Yeah.
go. There you go, there you go. We're sitting at 700 properties, 699 properties at the moment for sale.
Right.
It's been like that.
But how is it
680,
ordinarily?
680 on for 4.
Yeah, but let's give the people a gauge.
In a really tough market, it got up to 1,000 to 1,100 properties on
Okay.
the realestate.com website.
Yeah.
In a really narrow market and Christmas time when a lot of stuff left the market, it got down to 400. So it was in the
Yeah, but I want to know
mid
what the average
400s.
days on market is for those 700 odd properties, because I'll bet if you amortized it out, they're really long. Because
You're
I
getting
know,
really good at data,
I know.
Liz.
Yeah, no, I'm
Did
not.
you hear that? She
I don't.
used the word amortized.
I don't. No, I don't. I deal with it all day, every day. You know. But if at school I didn't love maths, I was a 4-unit English girl, but I've taught myself to work it all out, Mark.
Really, when I was
have
with
to.
when I
It's
was
what
with
I
the
do day
rep,
to day.
I saw last year was like this, up and
Yeah.
down, stock coming on, skinny, fat, whatever. It was crazy. This year, it was a eerie, it was a scary
Wow.
deadline for the last 6
Wow.
months. It was a deadline. It sat at about 1,000 for the month, coming on, going off. It was a dead line.
Wow, that's interesting. Really interesting.
Very
But
interesting.
guys, what I said a couple of months ago was my prediction was it's going to be a slow spring selling season, and it has been. And then I said things are going to ramp up toward the end of the year and early into the new year. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Mark, a record level of appraisals the last week.
Phenomenal.
And that pipelines as an agent into, you know, your listings. So, yes, watch this space. I think we're going to start to see quite a bit of stock coming on the market. I really do.
Are prices going to go down any further?
Look, I feel like we're pretty stable on the northern beaches now. I do. And I think people have gotten their head around the interest rates, because I haven't heard people talking about it for my last few open homes.
If I was a buyer, would you wait for another 3 months and see what happens?
No.
Why?
No, because the market is still relatively volatile. I still think, and don't forget, guys, peak to peak, usually, so what we mean is where the market was at its highest to when the market is next at its highest, that peak to peak usually is about a 2-year period. I just think the market's just so volatile, Mark. We saw the peak a year ago.
What do you mean peak to peak?
Peak to peak, when the market was last at
10 years.
Sorry?
10 years.
Peak to peak, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at that graph over a 40-year period, it doesn't peak
every 10 years it doubles.
No, that's
so
not
the growth.
That's not what I'm talking. I'm saying when the market starts to spike again to when the market starts to spike again. It's not every 10 years. You might be talking about doubling. You're talking about doubling. I'm talking about. I'm talking about something.
And have a really good debate.
I'm talking about something different. But look, you know, as I said, it's very, very volatile, this market, guys. I wouldn't be sitting around and going, oh, you know, I'm just going to see what the market wait and see if the market comes off. When you see the property that you love, buy it. If you've got the finance, go buy it. And also, I think financing's still going to be very, very tricky.
I was just about to say that a lot of people have been really clever, and they've waited the last 6 months, and what they were going to buy has gone down in value. But what they've missed is they now don't have the ability to buy the property because of their financing.
Oh my God, we see it all the time.
I'm seeing that happen a lot.
Yeah.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. They could have bought it for a little bit more 6 months ago. They can't buy it at all today because of funding. So I think that that's a really interesting
I
cleanser.
agree.
To if you do wait another 3 to 6 months, are you going to be able to get the finance?
I agree. That is really, really important. For those of you guys that have just tuned in, good morning to Deb, good morning to Luke as well. We were talking about sweetening the deal. So it's not just all about money for every vendor. Often, I mean, vendors love to hear the words unconditional, don't need a cooling off period, happy to do a shorter settlement. So always make sure you're sweetening your offer with great conditions, because buyers, you can't have it every which way. You can't put forward a not so great offer and then ask for an extended settlement and then a 10-day calling off period, right? So you can sweeten the deal though, with your terms and conditions. I feel like I'm blubbering a lot this morning. For the second time in my life, I slept through the alarm. Twice in my whole life that's happened this morning.
Is that my fault?
It's always your fault, Mark. Says every woman to their husband.
I feel like, do you remember Fast Forward?
I had to say that.
I remember in Fast Forward there was Sveta, no, what was his name?
I don't know.
Do you remember Fast Forward?
Yeah,
The
with Steve Izard.
The Russian radio presenter.
Yes.
Boris and Sveta.
Yes.
I feel like we're a bit Boris and Sveta.
Who's got that face?
Yeah,
You just
Boris.
did. Oh, that's all right then. That's
Does
fine.
that.
Yeah, Luke, terms are very important. It might end up being 100K discount because you give certainty. Luke, honestly, I could not agree more. As I said, 2-bedroom apartment in Collaroy that I exchanged last week weren't quite there on the dollars, but the terms were phenomenal. Vendor had an empty property. Purchasers could settle in a 4-week period and go unconditional. Like, it was just ticking boxes for him and took all the pain points away.
And I think the long-term guys are always the winners and girls. You cannot forget that good property is good property. And it's like anything out there. If it's good, it will just always be good. It's never like out of fashion or dead in the water.
Yeah, that's right.
It is property. They are not making more land.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, have faith and buy and hold long term. And
yes, we say that because we're real estate agents, guys. Yeah, but I've been talking to a lot of clients lately who are involved in the stock market. Now, I don't know anything about stocks, and I'm not claiming to, but they're telling me that stock market is not great, and they're wanting to buy property. They're going to invest there because it's much more stable for them and their family. We don't necessarily hear this over time with property, and I'm talking over a long duration of time. It's a stable investment.
Yep.
The people that get burnt are the ones that bought property last year and are wanting us to get it on the market this year.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't work that way.
Very good point.
It doesn't. The only way that you can make money that quickly is with Powerball, and I'm interested to know if anyone won the $160 million. Love to know. If any of you guys out there know, can you let us know? 160 million.
I don't even believe, like, where does that person, whoever wins, just disappears and you never see them? Like, I wish people winning the lottery.
Yeah, they go to Ibiza or somewhere. That's where they disappear to.
I know. I wish the people win the lottery, you could watch them and enjoy them for the next 5 or 10 years tossing it around.
Yeah.
What's Luby property?
Oh, look at that fancy
Real estate is meant to be bought, not sold.
Correct. This is correct. One of our girls, Cleo, she's one of our property managers, has worked for us for about years and years and years, I've lost count, is Greek. And she made a funny comment the other day, and she said, wogs don't sell. And, she could say that because she is one, and FYI, so are we. But,
oh my God.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
Going to be Kanye on us.
Oh my God, definitely not. Do not say that. God, what a disaster that is. What a disaster. FYI, guys, let me clarify there, Mark. Cleo's Greek, and we're European as well. But yes, Kanye, disaster. I keep watching it all on TikTok.
The media loves him. They just
no, they don't. They're ripping him apart. No, he's not well. The guy's not well.
Well, probably it's not that bad. They're happy to put him on.
Yeah, because it sells media. I mean, I think it's great. They should not give the guy airtime. He's not well. I don't. Racism, discrimination.
He's chubbed up a little bit like me.
Absolutely cooked. He's just, the guy's cooked and he's not well. Stop giving him airtime. It's a disaster. Absolute disaster.
All right, I think we're done.
That's it.
Have a great weekend. What are you doing on the weekend?
We are really, really busy day tomorrow with open homes. We are taking the team out tomorrow afternoon, evening for some drinks.
Yep.
And then Sunday we're catching up with friends.
Boom. Have a
See
good
you
weekend.
guys.
I hope it's good weather. It's really warmed up.
It is,
Love
it's
ya.
beautiful.
See ya. Bye.